Okay, so this is topic 5 or chapter 5 of your textbook. So this topic is about international parity conditions and exchange rate determinations. So what we're going to learn in this topic, the main ideas of this topic is about interest rate parity. So we have to understand what is purchasing power parity, right? Why purchasing power parity it's so important, right? And if we are talking about international level, so which means borrow from one country and invest in another country. So why? Because the two different country interest rate is different. So let's say you borrow in US and that borrowing money you invest in England, right? So if you're gonna do this, so when after investing money in England, when you have a return, and then that return you will convert back in USD. So you're gonna have a margin. You're gonna have some kinds of profit. This is called arbitrage opportunity. But under purchasing power parity or interest rate parity, there is no any arbitrage opportunity. No arbitrage opportunities means there is an equilibrium, right? Which means both countries have a same kinds of investment opportunity. And that's from interest rate parity point of view, that makes much more sense. Why? Because if there is no any interest rate parity or purchasing power parity, I hope, do you know purchasing power parity? We call it, you don't know triple P? You didn't study triple P? Okay, anyway, I will explain you what purchasing, because this topic is not about purchasing power parity. It's a next level of purchasing power parity, but I will give you explanations that what does it mean triple P, right? Triple P theory or triple P, that's all about economics. So it's the idea is that we can have an opportunity, arbitrage opportunity using interest rate. We call it covered interest rates, or we have no opportunity of interest rate, whether you are borrow in US or you borrow in US, invest in England, and then you convert back in US, no any difference. This is called interest rate parity, IRP, and covered interest rate, CIR. So let's start with the first, interest rate parity. We need a lecture slides, but in the beginning, I'm going to give you some basic information. So when we go on the slides, then we can understand the concepts in a better way. So first is a interest rate parity. We call it IRP. Before we study IRP, we need to understand what is triple P, purchasing power parity theory. So triple P stands for purchasing power parity. Now, what is triple P? Let me give you an example. So for example, GDP of US and GDP of Vietnam. How can we compare GDP of US and Vietnam? Of course, on the basis of the percentage. Whatever percentage we are estimating in US, whatever percentage we are estimating in Vietnam, right? When we are comparing GDP at international level, exchange rate plays very important role. And because of these exchange rates, the value of US currency is superior than the value of Vietnam dong. All right. So what does it mean? When we are estimating the GDP of US and GDP of Vietnam, is gonna be every time GDP of US will show superior every time. The reason behind is the exchange rates. So the idea is under purchasing power parity, we try to bring that situation that's easy for us to compare the economy of two different countries. This is called purchasing power parity. Bring the purchasing power equal. For example, what you can buy with $1 in US, sorry, $1 US dollar in Vietnam, what you can buy, and what you can buy with one Vietnam dong in US. So this represents the purchasing power of your currency. If you are comparing with $1 and $1 with one dong, this is unfair practice. Unfair practice. Why unfair practice? Because of course, compared to Vietnam, the things are much more expensive in US. So it doesn't mean that US is much more richer than Vietnam. This theory is not appropriate to by looking at the expenditures over there, we cannot simply say that. Let me give you an example, like as Switzerland and America. Compared to Vietnam and America, America is expensive country. And compared to America and Switzerland, Switzerland is expensive country. And in fact, I don't know you know that or not, world most richest people, they live in Switzerland. So I mean in Switzerland, if people are walking on the street, every third person is a millionaire. Every third person, not billionaire, millionaire in Switzerland. This is just one kind of survey. Some companies over there, they did some survey. So anyway, if we are comparing US compared to Vietnam, is expensive country. And if you compare US with Switzerland, Switzerland is expensive country. So we cannot say that Switzerland is better than America, or we cannot say that America is better than Vietnam. All right. So that's why, in order to bring all the countries economy performance at the same scale. How can we bring at the same scale so we can easily measure the GDP of Vietnam and GDP of US, and then by measuring the GDP, we can easily compare. So we can do this thing with the help of purchasing power parity. All right, purchasing power parity. So which means whatever you are buying in US is equals to whatever you are buying in Vietnam. This is called purchasing power parity. If this is not equal, then we have arbitrage opportunity. That's what we look at in the previous class. If they are equal, we don't have any arbitrage. All right. So the idea is that we apply this kind of theory in order to compare the economic condition of two different countries. So that's the only purpose of this purchasing power parity, right? So bring the purchasing power at the same level. I repeat, bring the purchasing power at the same level. When you are in Vietnam, you have to spend according to the Vietnam circulation system. If you are in US, you have to spend according to US circulation system, right? So this is the whole ideas. But of course, there is an arbitrage opportunity exist. So that's the ideas for purchasing power parity. Now, exactly same thing happened here, interest rate parity. Interest rate means at international level. Purchasing power parity is more about economic concepts. is mostly belongs to economics, and interest rate parity is mostly belongs to finance, because since is more about lending and borrowing money, and purchasing power parity is more about product and service. So we are using the example of product and service to understand what is purchasing power parity. And interest rate parity also associated with the purchasing power parity, because since it's a parity, bring the interest rate equals of the two countries, so we can easily measure the performance. We can easily measure the economy. We easily measure the GDP of that particular country. Right? So we have to bring it down. Now, what is interest rate parity? Remember, if we use the parity, no matter purchasing power parity or interest rate parity, there is no any arbitrage. If there is an interest rate parity, parity means equal purchasing power. Remember, parity means equal, right? Equal purchasing power, so no difference. So if equal purchasing power, which means there is no any arbitrage opportunity. But if purchasing power is different, we call it astute trader. Astute trader is a person who always find the way to make money by looking at arbitrage opportunity. We call them as astute trader. So if there is a parity, purchasing power parity, we do not have any kinds of arbitrage opportunity, since both countries has a equal purchasing power, no matter you buy in US or you buy in Vietnam. And we normally do that, right, by making comparison, all right? It's a theory to understand it. In reality, we don't do that. In reality, we find the arbitrage, all right? We all find the arbitrage. And of course, sometimes has an arbitrage opportunity, sometimes we don't have arbitrage opportunity. Sometimes arbitrage opportunities involve positive profit or loss. This is called arbitrage. So the difference between two countries, either give you profit or give you loss. All right, that's called arbitrage. Arbitrage doesn't mean that always profit, but if it's loss, astute trader will not perform any kinds of trading. But if it's profit, astute trader involved in that trading activity. But if both country has the same purchasing power, this astute trader will not involve any kinds of transaction. So instead of buying from foreign country, that astute trader will buy from local country. I mean, buy in his or her country. Why? Because if you will buy from your country and sell in your country, you do not have a transaction cost or transition cost. But if you are buying from foreign country, you have to pay transition cost, any kinds of international cost or expenses. That's very general view to understand the purchasing power parity or interest rate parity. So now, what is interest rate parity? So let's talk interest rate parity. Interest rate parity means when there is no arbitrage. No arbitrage opportunity. We do not have any kinds of arbitrage opportunity. This is called IRP. Okay. Another way to understand, so this is called IRP. IRP means the interest rates of two countries have same value. when expressed in terms of, when expressed in same currency. That's the meaning of IRP, which is similar to purchasing power parity. Purchasing power parity means the identical goods in both country, identical goods in both country have same value. Same value. What does it mean? It means, for example, Coca-Cola. Buy one Coca-Cola can in US, buy one Coca-Cola can in Vietnam. Both have a same value. Both have a same value. This is called purchasing power parity. Or we do some kinds of adjustments that bring the identical goods of two different countries at the same price. This is called a purchasing power parity. If there is no any purchasing power parity, the price of Coca-Cola in US and in Vietnam, if it's different, then arbitrage opportunity will arise. So the purpose of purchasing power parity to remove the arbitrage opportunity, so we can easily compare the purchasing power of two different countries, or we can make any other investment decisions of two different countries, or we can compare the economic performance of country performance, which is called GDP. We can easily compare if we remove arbitrage opportunity. If there is always arbitrage opportunity exists between two countries, we will not be able to make the comparison of GDP of two different countries. So we're gonna do some calculations. We're gonna do some adjustments. So with the help of that adjustment, we can bring these two products at the same level. Right? But I repeat, there could be arbitrage opportunity. Our objective is not to remove arbitrage opportunity. Our objective to make some kinds of adjustment, so arbitrage opportunity will be reduced or will be finished. So we can easily compare the two different countries' interest rates, or we can easily compare the two different countries' GDP. That's the whole idea of international parity conditions here. All right. Okay, so the conclusion is that if we have IRP exists, this trader will make, if IRP exists, trader will not make any profit. All right. If IRP do not exist, this trader will make unlimited profit. Trader will make unlimited profit if IRP do not exist, right? Okay. Now, one more thing, and then we move on to the lecture slides to look at some calculations of these interest rate parities. One more thing need to remember. Another thing, remember that if no IRP, all right, no IRP. Remember, interest rate, so let's say interest rate of US and interest rate of Vietnam. The difference between these two interest rates will be equals to the difference between spot price and forward price of one country. I repeat, the difference between two countries' interest rates. Two countries' interest rate, US and Vietnam. All right. The difference between two countries' interest rate will be equals to the difference between spot rate and forward rate. That's the whole idea. So keep in your mind these things. All right. Let's move on to slide number 3, I guess. Let me open the slide.
Sorry, but does it equals the difference between the spot rate and
So
the
for
spot
example,
rate and the forward rate of Vietnam đồng?
yeah, spot rate of US and the forward rate of US. So which means same country. Or that's what I mean. Yes?
I mean that does the difference equals, I mean, does the difference between the interest rate equals the difference between the spot rate and the forward rate of Vietnam đồng instead of USD?
Not Vietnam dong, investment. We are talking about investment. What does it mean? It means you invest in, you borrow from US and you invest in Vietnam. You're gonna have profit. Or you invest in US in spot and forward, then you're gonna have some profit. Because you trade to have profit. You trade to have profit. So this profit and this profit will be same. That's what I mean.
Okay, thank you.
If there is a parity, remember we are assuming interest rate parity. Interest rate parity means you borrow in America, you convert in Vietnam dong, and you invest in Vietnam, you have return, and then you convert back in US. You have profit, or you make some money, let's say, for example. That will be equals to you involved in a contract only in America. All right? Because we are talking about interest rate parity at international level. That's why I'm using a spot rate and forward rate. Exchange currencies, buying and selling currencies. All right. So you can buy and sell currencies in within the country, or you borrow in your own currency and you convert in foreign currency, and then once you have maturity, then you return back in USD. That's what I mean. We're gonna do this calculation through the slides that I'm gonna show you next, right? But the idea is that interest rate in US, the difference between interest rate in US and interest rate in Vietnam will be equal to the spot price and the forward price. All right, so remember that. So you're gonna have a profit. Same thing, no difference. All right. So let's have a look at the question. Okay. So here, that's here is the slide number, I guess it's a slide 4. Yes, this slide. So before this slide, we just simply look at all these things under So we also look at IRP means no arbitrage conditions. IRP did not hold, then it would be possible to astute trader to make unlimited amount of money that I mentioned you before. And okay, so if there is no any arbitrage condition, we safely assume that IRP hold. All right, if no arbitrage. All right. So if we don't have persistent arbitrage conditions, if we don't have the gradually or continuously arbitrage opportunity, that means IRP hold, not the regular. And it's never happened. It's never ever happened that you're gonna have a consistent arbitrage opportunity. It's basically up and down, then down, which means IRP hold. Why it's happened? I will give example later on when you understand the calculations. Then I will explain you that why not always arbitrage opportunity exist. All right. In the beginning it exists and then later on it go falls. Right. Why is like this? We will have a look at these things later on by doing some calculations or some things. So this is a theory. So what is interest rate parity theory? It's a theory which interest rate, same thing, differential between two countries is equal to difference between a forward exchange rate and spot rate, right? Differential interest rate between two countries is equal the difference between forward exchange rates and spot exchange rate. We will later we go to this slide to look at the calculations. Let's have a look some question here, some numbers to understand it. So here, consider you have option 1 and option 2. Consider alternative 1 year investment for $100,000. So which means you have options to make investment $1,000. Option 1, you invest in US at future value, which is this. What does it mean? We enter in a spot and the forward. Forward means future, right? So you invest $100,000 in US. So I interest rate in US. So you're gonna get some return, whatever is the interest rate. Then option 2, trade your dollar for pounds at spot rate. All right, what does it mean? Dollar means you convert your dollar into pound, whatever is the market rate. Spot rate means whatever is the market price. And then once you got, so what we are doing here, we are converting, that's the meaning of this. That's the meaning of this means this. So convert dollar into pound, dollar is 100,000 and you divide it by spot rate, which is dollar divided by pound. So which means 1 pound equals to this dollar. Right? So you are, this is your indirect quotation. So that's why we are dividing 1 divided by indirect quotations. Sorry, 1 divided by direct quotation, you have an indirect quotation because the sign is dollar divided by pounds. So, and you invest pound. This means pound. That comes, your answer will comes in pound. So you got pound, and you once you got pound, you invest in Britain at this interest rate in Britain, while eliminating any exchange rate risk by selling the future value of British investment at forward rate. Once you got this investment, this is spot rate, then you're gonna minimize your risk by entering contract in a forward rate. And then maybe you have profit or maybe you have loss. We assume it's a profit. So that's the ideas to calculate your future investment. So your future investment gonna be this. you borrow in US, right? Then you convert, this is step 1, borrow in US. Step 2, you convert in pounds. And step 3 is your maturity dates, which is the forward price. So this is the 3 steps we have. We can write these 3 steps in such way. We can write in a such way, right? So if you readjust it, that's will be equals to this, all right? You know, what does it mean, this? It means interest rate between 2 countries, interest rate between 2 countries will be equals to the spot and the forward, right? Which is dollar pounds, dollar pounds. That's what does it mean? We will gonna see these things in the next couple of slides. This is just an example. We haven't done any calculations. Now we do some calculations here using the same informations here. Okay, so option 1, you invest $1,000 at interest rate in US. You're going to invest in US. This is option 1, the previous slides. Now, option 2 is send your dollars on the round trip to Britain. So which means you send your dollars in the round trip, different countries. So you have $1,000. Now you're going to send it to round trip to England. And then you invest in England, right? And then you got maturity. When your investment complete, you're gonna get some return. You got return in pounds, and then you convert back in US, and then you will compare whether IRP hold or do not hold, which means IRP exist or do not exist. If this value and round trip value is same, that means IRP hold. If these values are different, that means IRP do not hold. We have investment opportunity or arbitrage investment opportunity exists. So let's have a look here. So we are sending this $1,000 to England, and then from England back to US. So that's dollars you convert into pounds, right? So you convert into pounds. You know that, how to do that, the previous topic. Spot rate, we are converting at spot rate, but because we need currencies in a pound, so we cannot wait for the future investment, we cannot wait for the forward contract. So that's why we are buying pounds at spot rate, right? Convert pound at spot price, right? Spot price, convert pounds at spot price. So now we gonna so this is step 1. Now this is step 1, convert. Step 2 is invest those pound at interest rate in England. All right, interest rate in England. Then the future value will be, this is step 1, this is step 1, and this is step 2, right, which is this. So convert and then step 2. So this is the value. This is the future value of your currencies when you convert in US, you convert in pounds and you invest in pounds, right? So, and now repatriate future value in USA. So now once this is the future value, we got our investment in, okay. So So now we got in pounds. So now we're gonna convert this pounds into USD. So we convert by this rate. So we will convert by this rate. All right, we convert by this rate. This is step 3. Step 3. Right. So we got this money now. So I mean, we got some number here. So by doing this, this is the round trip. This formula for round trip. Second option. This is the first option. Now, if both investment, since both of these investment have the same risk, they must have the same future value. Otherwise, arbitrage would exist. All right. So if this value and this investment value is the same, that means our IRP hold. IRP hold. If it's not same number, then arbitrage opportunity exists. That's what I was trying to explain you by saying that interest rate of the two different countries will be equals to the spot rate and the forward rate. Right. So let's move on to the next. Now, we can rearrange this equation by saying that $1,000 in US or $1,000 convert in US. So you can just remove it because it's just a scale. So don't worry about this scale values. So we can just rearrange whatever we have done in the previous slides. So as I said, scale of the project is unimportant. These are the scales of the investment. This is not important. The important is this and this, this, which is equals, right? So this and this is equals. That's what I mean. Right? So remember, US interest rate must be equals to UK interest rate, called interest rate parity. Otherwise, arbitrage opportunity would exist. If interest rate of the two different countries are same, then interest rate parities. Then we can make decisions over investment. All right, we can compare the circulation system or economic system of two different countries. Otherwise, we won't be able to. Right? Now, so we have some other informations. So don't worry about it. It just simply says that under IRP, we don't have any investment, no net investment, because we are not making money, and no risk since both investment are the same. But let's understand this IRP in another words by these 3 points. Right. By these 3 points. So first is borrowing dollars at spot in US, which is just enough to buy pounds at prevailing spot rate. Lend this £1 in UK at UK interest rate. Then sell the maturity value of UK investment at forward rate, right? Spot rate, forward rate, interest rates, all right? So the difference between two interest rates will be equals to difference between spot and the forward rate. If all are equal, IRP hold, because this equals this, interest rate same, no investment opportunity, spot equal forward, same, no investment opportunity. Right. Now, here is some explanations of interest rate parity in other words. So borrow in US, cash in, lend in UK, cash out. Borrow in US, cash in, lend in UK, cash out. Sell the pounds receivable forward, 0. Why? Because it's the same, whatever we have borrowed. Net cash outflow, 0. Or we can understand with this help of table. Now, we need to focus two things in this table. First thing is the net cash flow at the time of value is zero. So cash flows is zero. We are, in simple words, we are not making any money at all. Whether you choose this option or you choose that option. The net cash flows at the maturity dates is known with certainty. That is because no one of the variables involved in net cash flows is uncertain. Since no one should be able to make certain profit by holding this arbitrage portfolio, market equilibrium requires that net cash flows on maturity date be zero for these portfolios. Same thing. That's what we have done here, right? So market equilibriums means we don't have any kinds of investment opportunity. Either choose this or this. So we have equilibrium situations here. Now we can rearrange. Now what we learn here. So interest rate forward minus equals to zero. All right. So what does it mean? It means borrow here. This one, spot, all right, and lend in spot, and then you convert in a forward. That's what we're doing here. I repeat. Here, borrow in US at spot rate. And then you convert in pounds and then invest in pounds and you got return in pounds. So US and pounds are zero. We are not making any money. Either you choose US option or forward options, right? So we can rearrange these formulas to write like this, right? We can rearrange it. So which means interest rates of two different countries will approximately equals to the forward and the spot rate. That's what I was discussing in the beginning of the sessions. So that's the conclusion of this interest rate. So we can rearrange this equation in such way that interest rate of the two different countries will be equals to forward and spot rate of the currencies, right? So this is called interest rate parity, right? So now we can have a break here, and after break we will move on to covered interest arbitrage. So covered interest arbitrage means when we have a profit opportunity exist. I mean, arbitrage opportunity exists. This is called covered interest rate. So which means we are using option 1, which is invest in US, or option 2 is a round trip. Both options value will not be equal. Right? This is called covered interest arbitrage. Right? So anybody has any questions, or we go for break now?
No question.
No question. So we go for a break and then we will discuss about it. So now we move on to the covered interest arbitrage, CIA. So now what is covered interest arbitrage? So as you know, when IRP hold, you will be indifferent between investing your money in US or investing in UK. Why? Because IRP hold. So both places have the same kinds of opportunity to invest money. However, if IRP is volatile, so which means if no IRP hold, you will prefer one to another. So you're gonna prefer any of these investment, maybe alternative 1, investing in US, or alternative 2, investing in England. Why? Because one of these investment gonna give us a profit. You will be better off by investing in US or UK if interest rate in US is greater than in England. So this is the first option. First option in US is greater than round trip. All right. So we use forward. This divided by forward. This divided by spot and multiply by forward. When you need to borrow, on the other hand, you will choose to borrow where the dollar interest is lower. Lower the dollar interest, you prefer to borrow from that, and then you will round trip that money. When IRP doesn't hold, the situation also give rise to covered interest arbitrage opportunity. The same thing, IRP do not hold, called covered interest rate. If no arbitrage opportunity, called IRP. So IRP is exactly opposite of covered interest rate, interest arbitrage. Now here we can see the example that's proof that we may have IRP or we may have a covered interest arbitrage. So by looking at this example, we will find whether round trip is better, where you have to bear transaction cost, still you are making profit, or local investment is better, where you can save some investment, some kinds of transition or transportation cost. If IRP failed to hold and arbitrage would exist, it's easiest to see in the following example. So we can see the example. This is the spot rate. This is the spot rate we have. And this is the forward rate. So that's why 360 or 360 days. So you can see the rates are different. And discounts rate, which is interest rate in US and in England. Right, so this is the information. So let's move on to the next. So one more thing, if you borrow $1 million in US, that will be equals to this money. Why? 1 million divided by spot rate, which is 1.80. All right, dollar per pounds. So if you solve it, that's gonna be 555. All right. So that's what we mean here. Now let's use first check if IRP is whole under current markets or not. So what we are doing here, we are taking some kinds of examples, but of course, I guess this is not the, yes, I think we are using this examples, right? So without using any numbers, without using any round trip, we will insert the formula to check whether IRP hold or not. As we said, if interest rate not same, if interest rates are not same using forward and spot rate, that means this is covered arbitrage, covered interest arbitrage. So this is the formula that we are applying. 1.78, this is, I guess this is a, yeah, it's a rate forward divided by spots multiplied by interest rate. The same thing, forward divided by spot multiplied by interest rate. R plus, sorry, 1 plus interest rate in UK. 8% is in UK. Yes, it's in UK. If you solve it, you have forward rate, you have spot rate, you have this one, you will get 1.068, right? This is the rates information that you are getting. Which is not exactly equals to this, which is this. But what we are doing here, we are calculating the interest rates. So that's the formula, or you can call it 1 plus I, the same formula, 1 plus I in US equals to F divided by S, 1 plus I in England. All right. If this is equal, that means IRP. If it's not equal, that means covered interest arbitrage. This is the same formula we did it before. Here, exactly same formula. Slide number 6. Right. Slide number 6. That's from PPD 6. This formula from PPD 6. If it's not equal, covered interest arbitrage. If it's equal, IRP. So this is very quick informations without using any number. This is very quick ideas to find whether IRP hold or not. So such kinds of questions maybe comes in multiple choice questions, right? Now, here is a question. So first is we borrow $1 million in US. If you borrow, your repayments will be 1,050,000 using 5% interest rate, right? First alternative. Second alternative is we buying pounds. As we said, 1 million divided by 1 million divided by spot rate, which is 1.80. So if you divide it, you will get this number. So we will buy pounds. Now we're gonna invest these pounds at the rate of 8%, which is in US, 8%. Oh, sorry, England, 8%. So our investment become 600,000 pounds. So now we have pounds. So we are using the forward rate to convert pounds into dollars. So if we convert, so this is the forward rate. So using forward rate, we got 1,068,000 pounds. From round trip, we got 1,068,000 pounds. And how much we have to return? 1,050,000. So if we will minus 1,050,000 from this number, so we're gonna get $18,000 profit. That's example of covered interest arbitrage. So by doing this, yes, we have arbitrage opportunity. Sorry, yes, we have arbitrage opportunity. So this is the perfect example of covered interest arbitrage. All right. So is it okay? So is it clear in covered interest arbitrage? Any question?
Yes.
Okay. So let's move on to the next. So next is just a conclusion of covered interest arbitrage and IRP. So the conclusion is the borrow in US as much as possible means interest rate will rise in US. All right. So if you are borrowing more in US, demand increase, because when you keep borrowing money, supply of money will increase in a market. So what government do? Government gonna increase the interest rate so we can control over the supply. That's the meaning of this one. They are just saying indirect way of these things. Lend in UK means interest rate will fall in UK. Why? Lend in UK, same thing, lending increase in UK, right? Supply of money will increase in UK. As a result, everybody gonna supply in US. UK. As a result, if lending increase, supply increase, interest rate will fall. Buy the pounds spot, and at the same time, the pound will appreciate in spot market. Obviously, why? Because we are buying. So demand increase, price increase. Sell pounds in forward. The pounds will depreciate in forward market since selling increase in a forward. So because they are two different markets. They do not move in the same direction. If they are moving in the same directions, spot rate and forward rate are not giving any kinds of profit. So remember, sometimes we call it spot rate is the expected rate of forward market. All right, the rate in a, so let me write down here. So I'm talking about number 3 and number 4. So rate of spot market is the expectation of forward markets. Obviously, because as what we learned in the previous session, that if you want to estimate any kinds of profit, then you have to look at the rates of the spot markets. So our expectation of spot markets will give us profit by entering in a forward markets. We are expecting the spot, let's say we are buying, we sign a contract to buy at forward markets. So we expect that the spot market price will goes up. If it goes up, we make profit. All right. So that's the meaning of the expected rate of spot market is equals to the forward rate. Expected spot is equals to the forward rate. Now, next, in the making this certain profit, the arbitrager neither invest any money out of his pockets nor bore any risk. He intended carried out covered interest. Yes, that we know, which means borrow at one interest rate, simultaneously lend at another interest rate. Borrow in US and lend in UK. With exchange risk fully covered via forward hedging. We also call it hedging. Buy from one market and selling at different market, or buying and selling at different prices, or entering in a forward prices. That's called this thing. In the beginning of this session, I explain you that if there is an arbitrage opportunity, this is not always the case that arbitrage opportunity will be persistent. So there is no any consistent arbitrage opportunity. So means covered interest rate will not regularly exist. Why? Because as we look at from the previous slide, in the previous slides, we look at the demand and the supply of particular investment. If the demand of one supply is keep increasing, so all the kinds of investors, they're gonna invest in that investment. So as a result, the lending of the pounds will be increased. So lending of the pounds will be increased. So pounds more likely to reduce. So government will take some strict action to stop the flow of the particular money. If government will involve in such kinds of actions as a result, so that's kind of arbitrage opportunity will not exist for long. So idea is how long this arbitrage opportunity lasts. It lasts for short period. The reason is, as I said, government will take some kinds of strict actions over the control over the supply of particular money. So this is the ideas for it. Now the same thing that we looked at in the previous session. So we can also explain in other way. We can rearrange rewrite this equation in this one. So spot price equals to 1 plus pounds invest in invest interest rate in England divided by 1 plus interest rate in US multiply by forward. So we can rearrange these equations. Same thing. Now next is the expected future spot exchange. As I said, when we are entering in a contract for future, so we have one expectation towards the spot price. By looking at the expectation of the spot price, we make a decision whether we should enter in a forward contract or we should enter just using a spot rate. So the idea is that forward rate depends upon the expected rate of spot markets. That's what I explained here. The rate of spot market is the expectation of the forward market. So in other words, we can say that under certain condition, the forward exchange rates can be viewed as a expected future spot exchange rate. All right. So this is the sign. All right. So expectation play a key role in exchange rate determinations. Of course, expectation play very important role. By looking at all kinds of expectation, different investor, different trader or astute trader, they react towards that particular investment, whether they want to bid or ask. So that's why we can write it as a E, expectation, that stands for expectation. Now, the expected future exchange rate is shown to be determinant of current exchange rates. Yes, the expected future rates depends upon the current exchange rate. When the people expect the exchange rate to goes up in future, it goes up now. All right, because what they think something gonna increase in the future, it will increase now. Why? Because you will demand for that particular investment. For example, I believe, so now, for example, Win Group stock price. So I believe that stock price gonna increase in next 4 or 5 years. So what I will do, I'm start buying. That's my expectation. Similar to my behavior. Others buyer, they will react in the same directions. So they keep buying Win Group stock right now. As a result, demand increase, price increase. Instead of increasing in future, it will increase now. That's the meaning of this one. When the people expect the exchange rate goes up in future, I am expecting that Win Group stock price will go up in future. Instead, it goes up now. Why? Because I'm buying it. People expectation thus become self-fulfilling. So fulfill their own requirements. So this is how expectation works in order to meet their personal assumptions or personal requirements to make money, right? So now expected rate of exchange rate will equals to interest rate between two different countries. So it means interest rate differential between the pair of countries is equals to expected rate of change in exchange rates. Now what does it mean? It means before, what we studied before we study that interest rates of two countries is equals to the spot rate. The difference between interest rate is equals to the difference between spot rate. But now what we learn that spot rate and forward rate are expectations of the currency movement. So expectation of the future exchange rates will be equals to, so future exchange rate will be equals to the expected spot rate. So instead of writing S minus F, I am writing expectation E. So what does it mean? I can write this equation by I dollar, I pounds equals to E. We can write in a such way. So we can write like this. So that's exactly here, right? So the relationship known as uncovered interest rate parity. This is called uncovered interest rate parity. This is interest rate parity here. This is interest rate parity, IRP, IRP, and this is uncovered interest rate parity. So that's the difference. So arbitrage opportunity exists because of the expectation, but no arbitrage opportunity exists because of there is no any expectation. Spot price is equals to the forward price. As a result, there is no any investment profitable opportunity. Now, for example, annual interest rate is 5% in US and 8% is in UK. So what does it mean? Compared to UK, interest rate is lower in US. So people will borrow in US and then they're gonna invest in UK at 8%. A similar example that we looked at before. In this example, interest rate also exists. I mean, arbitrage opportunity also exists. The uncovered IRP suggests that the pound is expected to depreciate against USD by 3%. Why like this? Exactly same thing that I explained in the slides previously. We are lending. Interest rate will fall in UK. All right? Interest rate will fall in UK because the supply lending will increase, supply of money will increase. Supply of money increase, government will close down the interest rates. All right? Government will close down the interest rate if this situation is keep going on. As a result, your UK, which means your pounds, will depreciate. Right? Why depreciate? Supply increase, the value of money will decrease. Right. So that's what I explained here. That's exactly what it means here. Lending increase, supply of money increase. So government, so UK, the British pound will depreciate. So government will make a decision to stop supplying. So as a result, UK interest rate will fall. So this is the information for interest rate parities and exchange rate determination using the two different ideas here, IRP and UIRP. Let's move on to another one. Right now, always remember whatever we have studied previously, whatever we are estimated, doesn't matter interest rate parity examples we use it or uncovered interest rate parity 5%, 8%, the previous slide example we use it. In all these kinds of situation, we ignore two things. Number one, we ignore the transaction cost, because when you are entering in a foreign kinds of buying and selling, we have to pay for some particular transaction cost. So first thing, we ignore the transaction cost. As a result, your transaction, your cost will increase. So maybe your profitability may be affected. Second thing is, in the previous examples, we did not really cover at bid and ask spread. We did not look at the bid and ask spread. Right? We didn't find that the different rates. So whatever exchange rate, spot and forwarded, whatever we have, that's we just use it to determine that how much profit we're gonna have it. Right? So this is important: transaction cost and bid and ask spread price. Why? Because of that bid and ask spread, we may have negative profit. We have still arbitrage opportunity. I'm not saying that uncovered interest rate will not give us arbitrage. It gives arbitrage opportunity, but in such case, our profit could be in a negative directions. Second thing is we did not focus on the capital control. Capital control is a balance of payment. All right. If any kinds of, like, if you read this paragraph, capital control were often imposed by governments that I explained you before. Government also intervened in such kinds of supply and demand and supply of the money within the country. Without government permissions, foreign parties cannot invest in all countries like us, for example, in Vietnam. Without government permissions, foreign institutional investor or foreign direct investors, they cannot enter in a Vietnam market. So government play very important role in such kinds of things. And how government look at? By looking at the balance of payment. That's what we look at before: current accounts and capital accounts, and official reserves account, and statistical discrepancies. So mainly capital and the current account. So capital account is more about investment, because current accounts is about import export of goods and services, mainly goods. But capital accounts. So that's why capital control were often imposed by government in efforts to improve balance of payment situation. So government continuously looking at the inflow and outflow of money from the country capital accounts. All right. And by looking at that inflow and outflow, government will find out the official reserves account, which is called the balance. All right. Government in efforts to improve the balance of payment situation and to keep exchange rate at desirable levels. Of course, that's also such kinds of exchange rate floating, because it's not packed with any particular country. So it's all kind of exchange rate flotations is in the hand of the governments. So this impair the arbitrage result deviation from IRP. So what does it mean? It means maybe such kinds of situation deviate from IRP. Deviate from IRP means arbitrage. But this arbitrage may have a negative profitability. Impair the arbitrage results. Impair the arbitrage results means you may have loss from such kinds of arbitrage opportunity. Again, arbitrage still exists under uncovered, but it's not guaranteed that you're gonna always have a profit. So it all depends upon the government control over the country's capital flows, right? So this is the ideas for two other factors which are really important. Let's move on to next, which is, this is the example about considering bid and ask spread. This is the same example that what we looked before, but these examples focus on the bid and ask spread. So let's say here, borrowing lending in US, borrow land, and Europe, borrow land. Yes, student, it's confirmed that we will finish next week. All right, so 2 classes next week. And so borrowing in US 4.5, and Europe 5.5 and 5. So now you can see that you borrow in US and lend in Europe, IRP, all right, IRP. Borrow in Europe and lend in US. This is uncovered interest rate arbitrage. But this uncovered interest rate arbitrage may not give you profit. I can't say that it may not give you profit. This is arbitrage. And this is IRP. All right, so this one is not, it is IRP, but this one is a different rate. I'm not saying that in both cases you will not make any profit. Why? Because under IRP, two things really important. One is the interest rates of two different countries interest rate, or two different countries and exchange rates of two different countries, which is E. Exchange rates means forward, spot, and a forward rate. So by doing this, it depends. That's what I said before. So by looking at this table, we cannot come to conclusion that yes, there is interest rate parity and there is a uncovered interest rate, covered interest rate parity. So we can't simply say that. So another important role that we play is a spot rate. For bid and ask, we have spot price, and forward we have bid and ask. Why? Because you also buying and selling using the spot rate, and you also buying and selling using the forward rate, right? So how to calculate this spot rate and the forward rate? Let's say spot rate is given, so we're not going to calculate spot rate. Forward rate, how do we calculate forward bid and ask spread? If ask here, A stands for ask, forward ask, which is 1.445, and forward bid, which is 1.40 actually, but anyway, 1.415. Right? So how we estimate this bid and ask spread? We can calculate this bid and ask price for forward market is exactly same like as what we are doing in a round trip, like as here. Step 1, borrow $1 million at interest rate, right? B stand for bid because we are buying, right? So we borrow and then buy euro at spot. So that's why 1 divided by spot. Why ask? Because you are selling, so, or indirect quotation. So that's why we are using ask. So be careful about this bid and ask. This is bid and this is spot ask. All right. So now we got position in pounds. We're gonna invest. Invest means L. L means lending, interest rates. So remember, like the same thing we lend in UK. So lending. So 1 plus R. So this is your step 3. Step 2. All right. And step 1. This is step 1. You can also write, if you want, you can write 1 plus I B dollars. You can also write it. Step 1. Step 1, 2, 3, and finally you get your positions here, right? If you rearrange all this, if you combine them, step 1, 2, 3, 4 is like this. It will become like this. Step 2 and step 3. Step 2 here and step 3, which is, step 3 here, step 2 is here. If you arrange, so this is the position that you're going to get in a USD. If you arrange, so this will be shift to here. So that's why this will shift here, which is, let's say right here, 1, and here is 1, right? And here is 2. Here is 2. And here is 3. And here is 3. Right. So this is the way that we are finding forward bid. If you solve it using the previous numbers, you will get approximately this price. You can use your calculator to find this one if you are interested. But this is the way that we are estimating forward rate, right? By doing this. Now here we are finding this price. Right? So same thing, step 1, borrow in pounds. So here in the previous slide, this slide, we borrow in US, all right? And then round trip to Europe. And here we borrow in Europe and round trip to US. So borrow and then sell pounds in US at the spot rate. We are not doing direct quotation. Why? Because we have We have American terms. You can see that we have American terms. That's why we are using the direct quotations to convert euro into dollars. And then we lend this dollars. Now we got position in dollars. So we lend in US, and then finally we convert it. So if you're gonna do the same thing, so let's say step 2 and step 3 and step 4. If you rearrange, you get this number. That's 1.41, right? 1.41, yes. So this is the ideas to find the two different prices, which is the forward and the spot rate. This slide is not just this, if you are interested, but we don't need it. But if you want, you can use $1 million to round trip and find whether do we have opportunities or not. We have a kinds of profit opportunities. Do we have uncovered or covered interest rates? So if you want, you can find by yourself. But the idea is, the main purpose is here that we cannot ignore the particular transaction cost, or we cannot ignore some other kinds of factors that may involve in such kinds of buying and selling within the two different countries using the different interest rates, right? So that's the whole ideas for this international parity, interest rates at international level, right? I think we should stop here. Again, you can find whether do we have profitable opportunity here or not. If you want, you can find it. But our objective is not to finding any kinds of opportunity here. Just we need to find out how we are estimating such kinds of forward rate, right? Bid and ask. Right? Bid and ask. So, but you can see that bid is 1.44 and ask is 1.40. So the idea is, very quick idea is that there is no any investment opportunity here. I mean, profitable opportunity here. Could be arbitrage, but is in the negative directions. So that's a very quick way to find out whether we are making any profit. All right, so that's all about for this session. So next week, we will continue from this purchasing power parity stuff. Yes, so next week we will do that. So anybody, I mean, not next week, sorry, this Friday we will do that. So anybody has any questions, or we stop here?
Yes, I have a question.
Yep.
You talk about the rules for the cover interest arbitrage, and you concluded that the rate of spot market is the expectation of forward market.
Yes.
But you showed us the function that the spot equals 1 plus interest divided by 1 plus another interest multiplied by the forward market.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the same must be the forward market is the expectation of the spot market, not the other way around.
You said spot markets could be, you said forward market could be expectation of spot market, right?
Yeah, but you concluded that the rate of spot market is the expectation of the forward market.
Forward exchange rates could be seen as an expectation. So what I said, like we can read it here too. Forward exchange rates can be viewed as expected future spot exchange rates. Forward, yes. Forward rate means what we are expecting towards spot rate, right? Forward rate, what we are expecting towards the spot rate. So for example, I am planning, I know that spot price gonna change. So if spot price change, this is my expectation that spot price gonna change. So because using this expectation, I'm gonna enter in a forward rate. I'm gonna enter in a forward contract. That's what I mean. Did I say the same thing before?
No, you actually wrote on a previous slide that the spot market is the expectation.
Yeah. So you mean here, the
Yes,
rate of spot market. So spot market rate is the expectation of forward market. I mean forward market rate, not the forward markets. The rate of forward markets is based upon the expectation of the spot price. So expectation of spot price equals to the forward rate. That's the meaning of this. Is it the same thing or different? According to your opinion?
I think this sentence has different meaning.
So the rate of spot market is expectation of the forward markets.
So I think that the forward market rate is the expectation of the rate of spot market.
Yes. Okay, can you repeat again what you said?
I think that the forward market rate is the expectation of the spot market rate. Need to reverse the
Forward
now.
market is the expectation of spot market. Yes, it is opposite. Yes. So forward market, yes, you're right. So this is wrong. So forward markets rate, yes, its expectation of spot rate or spot market rate. Yes, that's right. So I think it's opposite. Yes, the forward rate is expectation of the spot rate. What we are expecting towards the spot rate, by looking at that expectation, we react in the forward market. Yes. Right?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Any other question? No questions? Then can we stop now?
Teacher, how about the detail of midterm exam? Is it the midterm exam? Is it the multiple choice or?
No midterm exam, you have assignments, no exam. Remember what I told you, because university not gonna open. So this Friday, we will discuss about assignments. And then hopefully Saturday or Sunday, you're gonna get your assignments with maybe 1 or 2 weeks. Your assignment not gonna be very long. So I'm gonna give you short period to complete the assignments, but deadline gonna be maximum 1 week. Or anyway, we will discuss on this Friday. We will start discussing the assignment first, and then we will move on to the next topic. All right? So don't be absent on this Friday. All right, so I'll see you on Friday morning, 8:30.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So this is your some general informations about your assignment. So this is a group group-based assignments. Each group should consist of 2 members maximum. You cannot be more than 2. All right. So we have 16 students. So which means we have 8 members. I mean, 8 groups, sorry. 8 groups, 16 students. All right. So you cannot be more than 2. Everybody understand?
Okay.
So maximum 2. And another thing is that you can decide your group member by yourself, right? Second thing is individual submission of this assignment is not allowed, will be severely penalized. You are not allowed to submit individually. You have to submit your assignment in a group. So for example, group A, 2 students. So in this 2 student, anybody can submit through learning management system. You know, both students don't have to submit. So one group, one submission. Either this student or this student, doesn't really matter because you're writing your name in a group assignments. Understand?
Okay.
So make sure you note down all this. This general information I will also mention in your assignments because I'm in the process of writing it. So once I finish, I will give you this information in your assignments as well, so you can read that information again. Second one is the assignment contribution section must be filled in individually by each member. So this is your assignment. I will come to this sheet later. So this one I will come later. So next page. So this is next page. I will discuss later. Next is, please take a note that copying of work of others, allowing others to copy your work or attempting to do any of above mentioned will result in automatic failure of your assignments, right? So make sure you do not copy from others or don't let other people copy your work, right? No excuses for act of plagiarisms. You know plagiarisms?
Yes.
Make sure you do not try to plagiarize. You may, of course, consult textbook, journals, and publications for reference purpose. So you can use any kinds of resources. And whatever resources you are using, it must be clearly quoted or referenced in your assignments. So whatever information you are using, if you are using information from lecture slides, because I guess most of information is coming from lecture slides. So you have to give the reference of the lecture slides in your in-text reference inside the assignments and final list of the assignment, which is at the end of the assignments. All right, so references are very important. Right? Textbook and lecture slides. Maybe you Google information, but that's fine. You can do whatever you want, but whatever information you are taking from any other sources, make sure you use as a reference in your assignment. Right? Okay. Next, number 4 is a late submission will not be entertained unless this is some legitimate mitigating factor. So make sure you do not submit your assignments after the submission deadline. So make sure on time or before time assignment, because I'm gonna open a window to submit your assignments. If the window is closed, you are not allowed to make any kinds of submissions, right? And finally, and another thing is that you submit your group work only via learning management system. That the system e-learning. Learning management means e-learning. So I will create your assignment submission on e-learning accounts, and then following that link, following that submission, you just attach your file. And do not submit your assignments via sending me email. Please do not send me any email for your assignments. Right? So make sure you submit through the e-learning system, all right? And I repeat again, one group, one submission, all right? So as I mentioned, one group, one submission. As I mentioned you before, in a one group have a 2 members. Any of these members can submit through on e-learning, maybe this student or this student, but please do not submit both. Everybody understand?
Okay.
And the last one is submit your assignments only in one PDF file. All right, submit your assignment in one PDF file. No Excel, no Word, nothing at all. You can work in Excel if you want it, but later on you can copy and you paste that table in your Word document, and then you convert in PDF file. Right? And only one file. All right, not more than one. I will click just only one file, and that file must be only in PDF. All right, and one more thing that I didn't mention here, your group name. Your group name. Your group name must be between letter A and Z. That is your group name. You choose any of these letters and make sure you do not repeat the group name with the others group members. So this is your responsibilities or monitor responsibilities to be sure that students are not using the same group name again. Everybody understand? So from letter A to letter Z, do not use any other fancy name. Do not use any other name. Just letter A, B, C, D to Z. So just you need 8 letters, so you can choose any of these. Understand? Anybody, any question?
No.
No question? So the deadline will be this Sunday? No, of course, deadline will not be this Sunday. How can be this Sunday? You haven't received your assignments. I said I will send you assignment before Sunday. I will try to send you on Sunday. If I send you, I hope I can finish it today or by tomorrow. Then I'm gonna give you around 1 week to complete these assignments. So 1 week is enough, right?
No.
Why not? It's more than enough, I guess.
Because we still have a midterm test for financial behavior, another course, and it's also next week. The deadline for that course also next week.
Okay. Anyway, let me explain. Okay, so let's continue. So make sure your group name must be between A and Z, right? Now we come back to this second point, which is assignment contribution. So on your next page, so on this page, you will see this sheets, right? And here, for your group name, for example, this is for group A. Your group name is group A, all right? So
Teacher, group name is only one word? Only A or B?
Yes, that's what I said. It should be between letter A to Z. All right, just a one letter, group A, group B, group C, group D. So any 8 letters. So you can choose any of these letters, A to Z, but make sure you do not repeat the same letter. So that's what I said. I will explain you this thing later. I will ask monitor to do a very small thing for me, and then you can inform the monitor your group members, so monitor can see that any of group names are not repeated. All right. So yes, it should be just a letter A to Z. Group name, not student name. All right. Group name A to Z. So for example, You choose name A, your group name is A. So here in group name, we have 2 students, right? So that's why you have, I make too many columns, but anyway, I will delete these columns to just make it 2 columns. So 2 students, right? Student 1 and student 2, so don't worry about it. So you, one group member gonna write name here and student ID, and another student write name here and student ID, right? And then here, if you go back here, you have to tell me your contribution. Your contribution means in this group assignment, what this student has done, what you have done, your contribution, what questions you have done. So make sure try to explain me in a little bit detail so I can read and I can understand so I can decide your grades, right? Same thing, second group members gonna explain the contribution that what he or she has given in this assignments. Did you understand that? Yes or no?
Yes, okay.
So for example, in your group assignment, if you have 3 questions, for example, so you have group member 1, you have to tell me what you have done in these 3 questions. Maybe you have done all these 3. If you have done all these 3, what you have done. And this student, what you have done in these 3 questions, if you attempt. For example, this student done 3 questions and this one also done 3 questions. But in these 3 questions, what you have done. So make sure your contribution and your contribution cannot be same. Remember, of course, your contribution cannot be same. You cannot simply write that I done question 1 and question 2 and I done only question 2. No, you have to explain a little bit more what you have done in question 1, what you have done in question 2. Same thing, number 2, you have to write down what you have done in the assignments, your contribution. The reason for this contribution is that this contribution will decide your marks. All right, student marks depends upon your writing. If you want me to explain more, I'm more easy to give you good marks or fair marks. All right, but if you are not providing me enough information, I may not able to give you fair marks, and then you will say, oh teacher, why I got low marks. All right, so if you want, you do not get low marks, you have to explain me what you have done in this assignment. So I'm easy to make decision for your grades. Understand?
Yes.
So is it clear?
How about the deadline?
Deadline, yes, I will come to deadline now. So before we move on to deadline, anybody has any question? Any information that you did not understand? Everything is okay? So can we move on?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So your deadline. Before your deadline, let me explain you your number of questions. Number of questions. You're gonna see 4 questions. Right? You're gonna see 4 questions. In this 4 question, 2 question is about theory. Theory is like as maybe case study. All right? Or some kinds of statement and you have to give your opinion on that statement. It's kind of opinion based, right? Theory based, you know, calculations. But if you want, you feel that you should show some numbers, you can show, but there is no any calculations question. It's just, I will give you one statement or one very small paragraph, like a case study, you read and you write down your opinion, all right? And keep in your mind, this is assignment, not exam. So your information must be in detail, research-based information, all right? Not just you're writing one small paragraph and finish, all right? It's a long research, is a case studies, right? So it's a statement, so it should be long explanations, all right? How long, it depends upon you. What do you think, what things should be covered in this information? Try to explain much more in detail. For example, international monetary system. If you explain the international monetary system is going to be really huge from period 1 to period 2. I mean, period 1 to until flexible exchange rate regimes, right? So that's kind of things you need to know. So 2 questions going to be theory and 2 questions going to be calculations. Calculations. These 2 calculation questions, one come from topic 5 and one come from topic 4. Right? Topic 5 and topic 4. Topic 5 is about interest rate parity stuff, right? And or round trip, whether you have a arbitrage opportunity or not, and some kind of information that I will mention in the assignment. And in this T4, topic 4, you're gonna see about spot rate, foreign exchange. If one person went to US and then he come back to, then he went to England and then Europe and then he come to Vietnam. So in US he bought $1,000 and then he exchanged in England. How much is exchange rate from England to Europe and Europe to maybe other, and then finally come back to Vietnam. So how much net money he has left in Vietnam, something like this. So same thing. It's a cross exchange rate quotation, bid and ask spread and stuff, right? So that's topic 4, bid and ask spread, cross exchange. And this one is interest rate parity, whether it's interest rate parity or cover interest rate parity or covered interest arbitrage. So that's kind of things that we have to. So 2 questions here and 2 questions here. So totally you're going to have 4 questions, right? Anybody has any questions regarding number of questions? So yeah, and these 2 questions, the theory-based questions, topic 1, 2, and 3. Maybe topic 1 and 2, or maybe topic 1 and 3. I'm working on it. I haven't decided topic 1 or topic 2, 3, but these 3 topics I will choose 2 questions. Maybe this, or this, or this, or this. So before we move on, anybody has any question?
No.
No questions? Okay. Let's move on to the submission deadline. Submission deadline. So for example, I will issue assignments. Issue date is 23rd of August. All right, this is issue date. For example, I try to send you before this one, but let's assume your issue dates is 23rd. Your assignment will appear on e-learning on 23rd of August 2020. Now submission date is is that okay? I'm giving you 2 weeks.
Okay, okay.
I'm giving you 2 weeks. I can't go more further because as I mentioned you before, in the middle of September, maybe you're gonna have final exam. So I don't want your assignment and final exams comes together or close to each other. So that's the reason submission deadline will be 6th of September. So before 6th of September, so you have 2 weeks. I believe these 2 weeks are more than enough to complete this assignment.
Okay, thank you.
And another thing I repeat again, student, make sure references are very important, right? Reference is very important. Maybe in citation, all right, inside the text, all right, citations, in-text citations, or and final list, reference list, right? These are very important. So in-text citations, you can use my lecture slides, which is called PPT. You can Harvard referencing or APA, whatever reference style you want to choose, it is up to you. But if you choose APA, make sure all reference should be in APA formats. If you are using Harvard referencing, so make sure all should be in a Harvard reference. So whatever referencing system you can choose, is up to you. But references are really important, all right? I think most of the time you're gonna use your lecture slides and textbook, all right? So make sure you find that how to make reference for lecture slides and the textbook. Right? And same, this is your full reference list. So I'm expecting that you are making a lot of research about, of course, you need a lots of references here. I guess you may not need reference here because I'm not asking to give any comments. All right, so you may not need reference here, right? If you're not writing anything or you're not comment anything, even though if you're writing, explaining small, may you not need any reference because you write on behalf of the numbers that you are calculating. But for theory parts, yes, you must have reference, right? You must have reference. And student, one more thing, please remember, I hope you know that. If you do, in case you do not know, I'm telling you that, please do not simply copy and paste information from internet or from your textbook. Your lecture slides, textbook, or internet just are the source to get the information. You simply cannot copy and paste in your assignments. You read, you understand, and you explain in your own words. We call it paraphrasing. It's very important. So you have to paraphrase whatever information you are writing. You are not allowed to copy and paste. I will read the text and I will recognize that whether you will copy or you're writing in your own words. So I'm expecting that you are writing in your own words, because if you simply copy and paste, I'm sorry to say you can get 0 marks in theory parts. All right, you simply get 0 marks in your theory parts if you try to copy any information from internet. Right? Same thing, copy any information from textbook. Write in your own words. Second thing is that when you're doing your assignments in a group, you can share, you can discuss with other group members, no problem. You can exchange the ideas with other group members, no problem. But please do not exchange your file, your answers, your assignments with each other. Do not exchange any kind of copy. All right. Don't believe other group members, no matter how good friends you are. Please don't do that, because if I recognize your assignments of the 2 group members are match, all right? So which means 2 group member and 2 group member, 4 people fail, 0 in your midterm score. All right, then you just have a final exam. Then I don't think so that enough for you to pass this subject. So my suggestion is that keep your information up to you, right? Or you can share information with me. If anything you do not understand about assignment, please feel free to send me email. Say, teacher, this is the assignment. I'm not sure. Of course, I will not able to give you the answer of the questions, but I can give you some few hints. All right. It depends upon the question you are asking. I'm not saying that you asking me something and I'm going to give you some hint. All right. Try to solve first at your level. If you cannot get the answer, or if you stuck or you confused or anything, then you can send me email. Definitely reply your email if try to solve your questions. But again, I will not give you any answers or any solutions. Please feel free to share me. Please feel free to ask me a question. But anyway, next week, we have 2 more days. So at least you have a chance to look at the assignment. If you want to ask any question, you can ask either on Friday and Tuesday. And one last thing, one favor I can do it for you is, so next week is the last week, right? But after this, after next week, if you still feel, majority of you, if you think that you need to ask me a lot of questions and you don't feel to send me email because you cannot able to express your question through emails, you want to see me face to face, so but feel free to tell me. I can open a short Zoom session with you, but again, but that Zoom session I can make it only on Sunday because other days I'm also busy. So it depends. If you still need me to share any kinds of information, need me to ask a lot of questions regarding assignment, at least 50% of the class. So at least 8 to 9 students, not just one. I'm not gonna open Zoom just for one student. One student, just send me email. If 8, 9, or 10 students have many questions, then I can arrange a very short Zoom meeting for 30 minutes, 40 minutes to ask your questions. All right? So any question? So don't worry, your assignment, I will not make your assignment so hard, so difficult. I will not make it. I will make it just at you. As long as you understand lecture slides, as long as the information is mentioned in the lecture slides, that's it. I will not use any, for topic 4 and topic 5. I will not use any question from your textbook. I will try to develop another questions using your lecture slides information. So maybe lecture slides information, but I will change the numbers, I will change the exchange rates, I change the dollar values, I will change some signs, and I change some quotations, American or European terms quotations, and then you can do it. Just you focus on your lecture slides. You don't have to worry too much about topic 4 and topic 5. Right? Topic 1, 2, and topic 3, of course, you need a research. So textbook or Google, anything you know. All right, so any questions? Anybody, any questions regarding assignment? Anything you want to ask? Anything you want to request?
No.
No questions. So let's move on to the. So let's move on to the next, the same topic, topic 5. So that topic may not be gonna very long. It's a short topic. Then I will leave you early. Right. So student, remember one thing, your assignment presentation, very important. Presentation means how you are presenting your work. So make sure your assignment should be very clear, all right? So like, for example, when you start writing a new questions, you start writing new question from new page. So for example, if you're writing questions here, writing question here, if your question finish here, so don't start next question here. Start question 2 from the next page, right? Presentation, very important. Try to make your assignment much more clear, very clear. Don't make it so complicated. Formatting is very important. You can use Times New Roman or Arial, whatever you want to use it. And font 12 is the standard size of the font. You can use it. But the idea is that make sure your assignment look beautiful, right? Not so messy, not so complicated. Things make it very clear, and the way that you are explaining, you can draw the diagram. That's what I like it. You can make some tables if you want it by yourself to explain the information much more clear. All right. So presentation is very important. All right. So maybe presentation will enhance your marks. All right. for example, and another thing is that I may not give you marks based upon your final answer. I will give you marks for your steps. So if I like this, for example, I will give you marks for step by step, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, whatever. So I'll give you marks for according to steps. But of course, if your final answer is wrong, you reduce marks quite higher. Use higher. So final marks also, final score, final answer also important. So please note this kind of information. Okay, so let's start with the purchasing power parity. What is, you know purchasing power parity. So purchasing power parity is a law of one price. That's called purchasing power parity. So this is the law of one price, which is applied internationally to standard community basket. We obtain the theory of purchasing power parity, so which means whatever we are buying in one countries, we are trying to equalize the same quantity with the other countries' currency purchasing power, right? So this theory, purchasing power of parity, states that exchange rate between currencies of two countries should be equal to the ratio of country price level, right? So which means exchange rate depends upon the price level, right? So what does it mean? For example, so where spot rate is a dollar price is £1, triple P implies that if the standard community basket cost something cost is $225 in US and £150 in England, so exchange rates will be 1.50, right? So exchange rate will be $1 pounds, exchange rate will be 1.50. So you can also write like in this way. So spot price dollar pound is a price in US and price in pound. So if you divide it, you will get the exchange rates, right? So this kind of explanations, this kind of estimation called obsolete version of triple P. So which means if you want to equalize, if you want to apply the purchasing power parity, so you can use this equation to equalize the currency or to estimate the exchange rate using this formula, right? If the price of commodity baskets is higher in US, so let's say before it was $225, now it reached to $300, then purchasing power parity dictates that exchange rate should be higher, of course, because since this dollar value has been increased. So that is $2, right? So 300 divided by 150. So to give, so idea is that if the dollar value is changing or pound value is changing, so exchange rate will be affected, obviously, right? But we can rearrange this formula like this. So dollar price equals to spot multiplied by price in pounds. You do either this or this. It will gonna give us the absolute version of purchasing power parity, right? Okay. So one thing we have to remember when we are estimating the exchange rate for purchasing power parity, so which is purchasing power parity requires that the price of standard commodity basket be the same across country when measured in a common currencies. So what does it mean? So it means when it's gonna be, for example, if you are comparing Coca-Cola with England, the price of Coca-Cola, to estimate price of Coca-Cola between US and England, if you want to estimate any other price between Vietnam and US, then you have to use the same product, which is Coca-Cola. Right? So that's the meaning of a standard commodity. So we have to standardize the commodities if we are estimating the obsolete version of the purchasing parity. Right? Okay, now, if obsolete purchasing power parity do not exist, then we have relative purchasing power parity. All right. So which means if any kinds of exchange rates that do not determine the purchasing power parity, that's will known as the relative purchasing power. So obsolete purchasing power and relative purchasing power. So let's read more about relative purchasing power. Under relative purchasing power, there is an arbitrage opportunity, right? Under obsolete purchasing power, there is no any arbitrage opportunity, right? The idea is that P is not particularly helpful in determining what the spot rate is today, but that relative change in the price between countries over the period of time determine the change in exchange rates, right? So it says that this kind of purchasing power parity do not help us to estimate the spot rate, all right? It do not help us to estimate the spot rate, but it can help us to estimate the changes in the exchange rates, all right? So how can we estimate the spot rate? If such kinds of purchasing power parity do not give us ideas to estimating the spot rate, how can we estimate? So now, it's very important, this paragraph. If spot rate between two countries start in equilibrium, so which means if the spot rate between two countries is the same, all right? So $1 equals 1 pound. That's the meaning of equilibrium. Any change in differential rate of inflation between them tend to be offset over the long run by an equal but opposite change in a spot rate. Now, what does it mean? It means, let's say this is USD. This is pound. Spot rate is equal, all right? Equilibrium. So if any of these countries inflation will increase, that will break the equilibrium. So for example, this is US and this is England. Spot rate equal. Now there is a high inflation in US. High inflation in US. So the value of USD will be depreciated against the pound. That's the meaning of this paragraph. All right. So what is the conclusion with this example, this paragraph? So in simple language, this paragraph indicating that with the help of rate of inflation, we can determine the exchange rates, maybe spot exchange rates, because as the inflation is increasing, supply of dollar increasing, value of dollar is getting weaker compared to the pound. So this is pound, all right? So as a result, we got the two different, so we break the equilibrium, so which means not equality between the exchange rate, so US is getting weaker. So exchange rate of inflation plays very important role in determining the spot rate. Remember that. So in your final exams, I can ask this kind of question. All right. So rate of inflations, very important factors. Let's move on. Now, so we can estimate the relative versions, which means we are estimating, as we mentioned before, we can, with the relative versions, we can estimate change in our exchange rates using the inflations. What change? Positive change or negative change? US currency is getting weaker, negative change, let's assume in American terms, and US is getting stronger, is a positive change. So relative, P states that rate of change rate of change in the exchange rate equals to differences in the rate of inflation. All right. So what does it mean? As inflation rate between two countries are change. So if there is a difference, the inflation rate of these two countries, the currency exchange will be affected of these two countries. If inflation is the same of these two countries, exchange rate will be the same of these two countries. So exchange rate merely affected by the rate of inflation. So we can estimate the rate of, so we can, E stand for exchange rates, relative version. So remember, this is obsolete version, right? Estimating the spot rate, two different countries. This is obsolete. And this is relative version, that much more practical. All right? So in other words, we can say that nominal and real. So nominal rates, because we did not consider inflation, and it's a real. So we are considering the inflation. So pi dollars minus pi pounds. So pi stands for inflation. Pi stands for inflation. So inflation rate in USD, in US, and inflation rate in pounds, US and pounds. It's not a currency, it's inflation. Divided by 1 plus pi in England, which is approximately equals to this minus this. All right, so that will give us the exchange rates. For example, let me write down here. Yes, they're writing this example here. This is a very good example to understand that kind of information. So it says that if US inflation is 5% and UK inflation is 3.5%, so which means US inflation is higher than the UK, then pound should be appreciate. Pound should be appreciate against USD by 1 minus 5%. Why? Because inflation in US minus inflation in pound will be equals to the exchange rates, change in exchange rates. So if US have a high inflation, so which means US currency will depreciate by the rate which is different than the exchange inflation rate of the England. So 1.5% will be depreciation in a exchange rate fluctuations. So there will be the difference. So we can say that $1 equals to 1.5 pounds. Before $1 equals to 1 pound, right? Before $1 equals to 1 pound, because spot rate equilibrium, but there is a 5% inflation and 3.5% inflation in England and US. So 1.5% change in exchange rate. So $1 will be equals to 1.5%, $1.5 dollar. The value of $1 will be 1.5 pound, right? No, value of, yes, value of 1 pound will be $1.5. Right, that's the meaning of this 1.5%. Okay. So if triple P not hold, deviation from triple P, so which means profitable opportunities. Change in nominal exchange rate cause change in do you know nominal exchange rate and real exchange rates? Do you know the difference?
No.
No, you don't know? Do you know nominal interest rates and real interest rates? You don't know nominal interest rate? So they are same, interest rate and exchange rate. So I'll explain you what is nominal interest rate. So for example, you go to bank to deposit money in bank. Have you ever recognized some nowadays, or maybe in the past, bank, they write down the interest rate in the on the entrance on the bank, so people can see the interest rate and people may be attracted to make deposit in a bank, right? So remember, the interest rate the bank which are offering deposit rate. So let's say bank are offering 6%. Bank are offering 6%. So remember, what does it mean? It means your deposit will increase by 6% per year, for example, per year. It means your deposit will increase by 6% per year. So this is called nominal interest rate or nominal rate. Now, what is real interest rate or real rate? Real rate is the rate which tells us actually your money is increasing. So in reality, your money may not increase by 6%. Why? For example, inflation in a market is 3.5%. Inflation in a market is 3.5%, which means your money will decrease by, the value of money will decrease by 3.5%. And nominal exchange rate, 6%. So which means money will increase by 6%. Increase by 6, decrease by 3.5. So net income. So 6% is nominal interest rate. So which means money increased by 6% and inflation is 3.5. So which means money decreased by 3.5. So which means net money increased by 2.5. So net interest rate is 2.5. So this 2.5 interest rate called real interest rate. So real exchange rate means when we consider inflation, when we are estimating the exchange rates. Nominal interest rate, when, so in other words, you can say that this is nominal. Obsolete is a nominal. Why? Because we are not estimating any kinds of inflation. Perfect word. This is perfect word example. Right? When word is perfect, no inflation. But of course, in reality, inflation exists. So when we estimating exchange rate using the inflation, that's called a real exchange rate. So real means actual exchange rate. So now, this real exchange rates and nominal exchange rates, I give example of interest rate for you to understand what is nominal and what is real exchange rate. But we can explain this nominal exchange rate and real exchange rate in other words. So nominal exchange rate means the amount of currency you can receive in exchange for another currencies. Yes, of course, that what if we are currency one to another, right? But real exchange rate means purchasing power of currency related to another at current exchange rate of the price. So when the amount of, okay, let me give you another example. Nominal exchange rate means $1 equals to 25,000. This is called nominal exchange rates. Real exchange rate means what you can buy in 25,000 Vietnam dong, with 25,000 Vietnam dong in Vietnam, what you can buy in that money. This is called real exchange rate, because in reality, what is the purpose of exchange rates? Exchange rates represent the purchasing power. Same thing, interest rate. What is the purpose of interest rate? The purpose of interest rate is to maximize your return, to make money, to increase your money. All right. So that's why real interest rate is more practical rather than nominal interest rate. So bank use nominal exchange rate for marketing purpose, to attract the investors, attract the customers. And it's very hard to explain the people what is inflation, like as the farmers, like as the workers. It's very hard to explain them what is the meaning of inflation. They may not really care about it. Still some people, they believe that putting money in bank is much more safer than investing money in real estate or somewhere else. Why? Because they think that, oh, bank not gonna bankrupt. But they do not know one thing: if inflation is keep going on, even though you are keeping money in a bank, the value of money is keep going down. Even though it's just you put that money in bank, even though it's a government bank, still the value of money is going down, right? So by that reason, nominal exchange rate or nominal interest rate using for marketing purpose to attract the people. And of course, it's a higher. As I said, nominal is a 6% and real is a 2.5%. So instead of saying 2.5, if you say 6%, people will think, wow, 6%, too much in return. But you are ignoring them the inflation rate that they have no idea, right? So that's exactly explanation of nominal and real. So the purchasing power of currency relative to the another current exchange rate and the price. What you can buy with this 25,000 Vietnam dong in Vietnam, because you exchange with USD, right? Or you exchange with USD to pound. So let's say pound is maybe $1.5 USD value of £1. So what you can buy in England with that money, all right? So that's called the real exchange rates, right? Purchasing power is really important. Right? So let me give you very best example. When first time I came to Vietnam, at that time, exchange rates between US and the Indian rupee was around 55 rupees. So which means $1 equals to 55 rupees. It was like in 2012. Now, $1 equals to 75 to 76 rupee. So what does it mean? It means the value, it means the inflation is increasing in India from the last 7 to 8 years, right? Or the value of money is going down. So the Indian rupee is depreciating over the period, right? So if you go to US from India, then you will find out that what you can buy with that maybe 50 rupees in India, in US. So that will represent the real exchange rate because they are that estimated using the inflation rate. So it's very important to use inflation. So we can write down in another words, in another way, this thing. So now so how can we write down real exchange rates? So 1 plus inflation in US divided by 1 plus change in exchange rate multiplied by 1 plus inflation in England. If you rearrange, again, you will reach at this point. All right. Okay. Now remember, if triple P hold, then this Q value equals to 1. Q value equals to 1 means, so USD value and pound, they are 1. Value is equal. This is called equilibrium. If Q equals 1, so Q equals 1, which means 1 pound. I'm giving you example. What is the value? Because we calculate the formula using. So we are estimating exchange rate applying this formula. So if you insert all the information in this formula, if this Q equals to 1, so which means 1 pound equals to 1 USD. That's the meaning of this, right? Now, Q could be higher or could be lower, all right? So as I said, Q value could be equals to 1, Q value will be less than 1, or Q value will be more than 1. So Q value will be 0.96 or 97, for example. This is less than 1. Or Q value is equals to 1.71. Now, what does it mean less than 1? or more than 1. So let's explain if more than 1, no, less than 1. So if Q is, let's say, 0.97 something, 0.9, less than 0.99 or 97, 98, 96 something. So if Q value less than 1, it means competitiveness of domestic currency improve with the currency depreciation. So domestic currencies depreciation. So means if Q less than 1, which means dollar depreciate less than 1, which represent inflation. All right. So that's representing the dollar depreciate. If Q less than 1, which means dollar depreciate less than 1, which represent inflation in US. That's the meaning of this. If Q more than 1, competitiveness of domestic currency detroits, hyperinflation, destroy with the currency depreciation. Dollar depreciate more than 1, which represent inflation. So always remember, more than dollar depreciate more than 1. Dollar depreciate a lot. Dollar depreciate less. Remember, in both cases, Q less than 1, Q more than 1. In both cases, dollar depreciate, right? Dollar depreciate. But here, dollar depreciate less than 1. Dollar depreciate more than 1. More than 1 means more than 100% dollar is depreciating. That's the meaning of this one, Q greater than 1. So we have one example here. So maybe this or this. We will read the example first. For example, annual inflation rate is 5% in US. Same example that we discussed before. And 3.5% in UK. And the pound appreciate against the dollar by 4.5. So this 4.5 is a E, all right? E, difference in exchange rate difference. So what is the real exchange rate? So if all this information, which is 1 plus inflation in US, which is 5%, divided by 1 plus exchange rates, change in exchange rate, which is 4.5% here, and inflation in England, which is 3.5%. If you solve it, is 0.97, which is less than 1. So which means dollar depreciate less than 1. All right, increasing in an inflation. So that's the meaning of this one. Right. So this is the way that we can understand the real exchange rate comparison between the two different currencies. So this is the actual situation. So this is the perfect world that generally do not happen. If IRP, if triple P hold, then if this. If triple P not hold, then it's not this. It's never be equal. Right? Now, evidence on triple P. Triple P probably doesn't hold precisely in the real world, that's what I mentioned, for the variety of reasons. For example, haircut cost 10 times as much in developed world as in the developing nations. So like a haircut in Vietnam, on an average, I don't know, maybe on an average, the haircut is maybe 40,000, 50,000 Vietnam dong, I guess, just take an average, right? So this is the haircuts in Vietnam. 40,000, and even though maybe much more cheaper, like some shops, some people, they open shops, barber shops under the tree. They put the chair under tree, probably like as India. Some in the rural areas, some people running barber shops, I mean, they cannot afford the shops and things. They don't have enough resources, so they just grab the chairs and grab some kinds of their tools, and then they sit under the tree. So that's significantly cheaper, but that's very hardly to see that kind of experience or practiced in developed nations. So that's why the prices are different. Right? Next one is a film. On other hand, is a highly standardized commodity that is actively traded across border. So one movie tickets. So let's say movie tickets of Avengers in Vietnam and the movie ticket Avengers in US. Right? Of course, it depends is it multiplex or not. Just take example of standard movie theater. So the price is going to be different. So it's really hard to find out that triple P whole in reality. It's not whole, but we have to make it whole in order to compare the economy. That's what we discussed before. All right? But again, as I said, it's a valuable benchmark. It's a benchmark to estimating the performance of two different countries' economy. It's easy to compare the economically perform two different countries, all right, by using the triple P, purchasing power parity. All right, so that's all about triple P. So triple P is finished. And from here, Fisher effects start. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we may not study Fisher effects. So that's all. That's all for topic 5. So topic 5 is finished. So make sure until this slide number 28. So from 29 onwards, you don't have to worry for your assignment or for your exams, right? So any question?
Yes.
Yes.
In the last example, when we when we talk about the meaning of quill, I don't know how to say. The inflation for the US in the US is 5%, and the inflation for the pound is 3%, 3.5%.
Yes.
But why the dollar still depreciate? But why the dollar depreciate against the pound by 4.5%, but not 1.5%?
No, this is we already no. Actually, the examples we give it here, like is here, right? So dollar will depreciate 1.5%. This is we are finding the parameters to estimate the exchange rate, but this is not the exact way that we are using to estimate, because other factors also determine when we are estimating the price of inflation, price of the exchange rates. So this is the parameters. So the parameter, always remember, if one country inflation this and other country inflation that, so it doesn't mean that exchange rate will decrease exactly in the same proportions. No, because we are comparing US with pound, USD with the pound. But of course, USD also affected by the other nations too, because demand of USD may increase or decrease by the other nation or international markets too. Here, we are just simply taking example of two different nations. We only looking at only two nations exist in this world, not many nations. But in reality, some other factors also affect where that's come from the other nations, that come from the other import and export activities in US. Then we will get this 4.5%. All right. So in this example, this is very standardized example. This one is a very basic standard way to understand the importance of inflation when we are estimating exchange rate between two countries. All right. This is the standardized example. But of course, reality is not exactly, it cannot be exactly in the same proportion. Inflation and exchange rate cannot be explained in the same proportion. Let me explain you another example. Remember, I give example of 6% nominal exchange rate and real exchange rate, which is 2.5%. Okay. So What does it mean? It means my currency net increased by 2.5%. This example is very standardized example, but in reality, when we are estimating our actual money increase, is not simply depends upon the inflation. It also depends on the flow of money or money already in a circulation system. So that's the reason my money may not exactly increase by 2.5%, maybe more or maybe less. But I'm giving you very standardized example to understand 6% or 2.5%. Same thing, we did it here, right? And that's the reason my currency appreciation is 4.5, which is, we just use a one random number. Maybe there are some other reasons behind this currencies exchange, but we just use a random number. If we're not estimating this 5 minus 3.5 is 4.5. All right. So that's the reason. We use this number so we can get to this number. That's another way that you can say it. It's just a random number. So that's not come from this minus this. Of course not. All right. So this is the actually currency difference between US and the pounds. Of course, import export also affect the currency exchange between US and pound, not just only inflation. In reality, right? How many trading activities happen in two different countries? So that's why not simply 5 minus 3.5 is a change in exchange rate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so any other question? So no question? If no questions, then can we stop here?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Do you need a recording session for this lecture?
Of course.
Yes, okay, I'm recording, but the previous lecture I haven't uploaded, so I will upload it today. The previous sessions, the previous session and this session, maybe I will upload it together. All right. All right. So we stop here. So I'll see you next week Tuesday. But tomorrow or after tomorrow, finally, I will send you assignment. I forgot to ask monitor. Can you please? One thing you can do? You can ask a student to send you their group members. So
okay.
you understand, this student have this group, this student has a group, and you can write down in Excel sheets like this. Let me show you. You can write down in Excel sheets like this, the name of, can you see that? Can you see that?
Yes.
So this is the number, student ID, student name here, date of birth, and group A, group B, or whatever group they choose. So if they do that, so the good thing is that you able to understand that student, they are not repeating their group name again. So can you please make a list of, we have 16 students. Do you have student list? Can I send it to you? Do you have?
Yes, I have student list.
Okay, so you can make exactly like this, and then maybe tomorrow or next time in future you can send me the group list. And student, this is your responsibilities to inform to inform the class monitor your group member. All right, so he's not gonna ask you, so make sure you tell them. They will reply you through emails or through other things. All right.
Okay.
Okay, so any question? No question, so we stop here. I'll see you next week on Tuesday.
Okay, bye-bye.